Welcome to Opera Insight 2025, Episode 5, Wagner's Die Valkyrie. It is the second of the 4 operas in Wagner's famous Ring Cycle. I'm your presenter, Dr. Don Feinberg, and I assure you that this presentation about the substantial psychological insights offered by this opera won't take half as long as the opera itself. Now that I think about it, not even a quarter as long. More like a tenth as long. Still, that's not insignificant, so we better get started. If we've learned anything from the 2 Wagner operas in recent seasons here, with Wagner, the length of his opera is the strength of his opera. It is surprising how the 3 acts of this opera are more like a tour de force triple bill. The energy of the music and the surprisingly engaging narrative keeps us mesmerized longer than we imagined possible. Of course, if you already know Wagner's operas, you're probably thinking some version of, duh, what else is new? But if you are new to Wagner, I again assure you, with this production, you are in for a treat. Now, in this brief Opera Insight episode, there is nothing about the history of opera and Wagner's controversial place in it. Not much about Norse mythology from which the characters are drawn. These are not program notes about the cast, the characters, the music, not at all. Instead, we will look at this opera through the lens and tale of heroic mythic grandeur, revealing for us very real human dilemmas that we all face with their all too personal relevance. This is what appealed to our director, Melly Still. The opera's combination of philosophy and mythology actually tells what she called a very contemporary story about love and power. And with that said, let's dive right into the narrative. Act 1 opens as we meet the human hero, Sigmund. Well, actually, half human. He's mortal like the rest of us, but he has been fathered by Wotan, the king of the gods. Like Sigmund, we are about to meet his twin sister, Sieglinde, for the first time. They were separated at birth and remained so until the opening act of this opera. The exhausted, battle-weary hero wanders into the home of Sieglinde. She is unhappily married to Hundig. We soon find out that he is an abusive husband as well as a mortal enemy to Sigmund. On the one hand, we ask, does their reunion represent their inevitable expression of cosmic fate? Or on the other hand, do we meet 2 people willing to embrace their forbidden love? To say that Sigmund and Sieglinde have chemistry would be an operatic understatement. Sigmund is a wandering hero who explains that his ruthlessness is an expression of his past trauma. Sieglinde is stuck in a loveless marriage to an abusive brute. In her, he finds his roots, and in him, she finds her wings. Hundig, in the meantime, has offered shelter to Sigmund, according to the social mores of helping strangers. Even though he learned of Sigmund's identity, that is to say that he was a mortal enemy, Hundig announces that he will still wait to kill him until the morning because of the social codes of retribution, which do not undo the social codes of welcoming a stranger to stay the night. The 2 matters of conflict between socially dictated head and emotionally fueled heart appears both in the love of Sigmund and Sieglinde and the vengeful intentions of Hundig. This conflict between what society dictates and what the heart longs for is introduced right here at the beginning, and it permeates the entire opera. In order to help her brother, Sieglinde drugs her husband Hundig. Sigmund, for his part, removes the previously unmovable sword plunged into a tree by an unknown person. Actually, it was Wotan. This weapon is destined for a hero, for only a hero can wield it. Sigmund names the sword Notung. The realization that they are each other's long-lost twin immediately heals the traumas of their past. Unfortunately, their passion puts them at odds with both the laws of nature and the laws of the gods. They are willing to take their chances and they run off together. A part of Wagner's brilliance as a composer is the way in which his music not only reflects the emotional ambience of the scene, but also the emotional conflict that the opera's characters experience. In the very first scene of Act 1, the music represents the raging storm outside, as well as the conflicted feelings of the soon-to-be lovers. In Act 2, the scene shifts from the earthly human drama to the realm of the gods. We meet the twins' father, Wotan. Now, for those of you familiar with Wagner's Ring Cycle, we know him from Das Rheingold. Even summarizing that would really extend this presentation, well, let's just say, to Wagnerian excess. But let me just say that the previous opera does introduce us to a gold ring, the ring after which the cycle is named. And after 15 hours of opera, is actually returned to the Rhine River from whence it came. But we're in the middle of all that. And at this point, Wotan, who could not retrieve the ring for himself, for reasons I'm not going to explain here, needs a naive hero, impervious to the power of the ring, who will retrieve it for him. You see why he stuck his sword into the tree. It's a sort of screening test for the hero for whom he was searching. Got it? Well, you guessed it. His illegitimate son, Sigmund, is just such a hero. Strong, bold, intelligent, and ready to do the right thing. Well, ethically speaking, he's better at fighting than writing when it comes to illicit conjugal relations. But Wotan is convinced he is the right guy and tells his daughter, Brunhilde, to protect him and make sure he's victorious in the upcoming battle with Hundig. Now, as our director, Melis Steele, pointed out, names are important in these operas. Brunhilde actually means shield and weapon. Hundig is just a more singable, two-syllable expansion of Hund, or dog. You know, with apologies to all you dog lovers out there, it's kind of meant as an insult. Now, Brunhilde, his favorite daughter, and a battle-worthy Valkyrie, is in fact the leader of the Valkyries. The Valkyries are charged with removing the bodies of fallen heroes and taking them to their heavenly reward. The plot, as is tritely said, thickens. Wotan's wife, Fricka, the goddess of marriage, is enraged at the behavior of Sigmund and Sieglinde. She insists that they be punished. Here's where that human psychology kicks in yet again. Sure, Fricka has righteous indignation, but she's also Wotan's wife, and those twins are the product of Wotan's infidelity, and here's her chance to rid the world of them. But Fricka is no cardboard cutout wicked stepmom. She's a principled woman who's been deeply hurt by her husband's infidelity. However, more than anything, she abides by the laws of nature dictated by Wotan himself. Wotan must agree. He eventually instructs Brunhilde to withdraw her protection. This would inevitably lead to Sigmund's death. Even though Wotan is a powerful god, he is subject to the rules of nature that he himself has created. He sings this straight out. "These are the fetters that bind me. I ruled through treaties of my own making, and now those treaties rule me." Has he really woven his own destiny, or has he merely succumbed to the realities of his fate? The power of fate that dooms the gods of Valhalla is recognized in Greek mythology as well, where even Zeus must yield to the power of Ananke, or fate. Here's where the narrative of Wotan's inner conflict expresses intense human emotions to which we all can relate. Caught in the terrible clutches of fate, Wotan expresses to his daughter the pain of his bind. The adult daughter, Brunhilde, recognizes that her father is not the all-powerful God she imagined him to be. Perhaps you can remember the first time when you realized your idealized parents were just regular people, with their conflicts, their flaws, their passions. Simultaneously, it's the time when we realize that we, and not our parents, must decide how we can be responsible for our own lives. Brunhilde reaches that point right here, before our eyes and ears. As Melly still observes, she is effectively alone in her choices and is pushed to work things out for herself. In this way, to really live. Brunhilde has awakened to the power of love from the humans, Sigmund and Sieglinde. She exhibits the adult qualities of reason and compassion that the one-eyed Wotan has become completely blind to. She tells her father straight out, when Fricka made you change your mind and you submitted to her will, you became your own worst enemy. Brunhilde has been moved by Sigmund's love for Sieglinde. She shows human compassion for him, and in turn goes against her father's wishes and protects him in the battle. But Wotan arrives and overrides her protection. As Melly Still, the director, explained, he deeply resents her maturity because it exposes his weakness. This is unbearable to him. Wotan feels she has undermined his authority and treated it with contempt. He resents it. He turns his back on love and his daughter's genuine concern. We all know parents, maybe your own, that have resented their children for growing up, growing apart, and even growing beyond them. Wotan, who sees his cursed end as fated, is just such a parent. He shatters Notung, the magic sword, allowing Huntig to kill Sigmund. Sieglinde wishes to die with her beloved, but Brunhilde informs her that she is carrying Sigmund's child. The two women escape with the shattered remnants of Notung. Spoiler alert, later in the ring, the sword does make a comeback. Act 3 opens with what must be one of the most famous choral pieces in all of opera, The Ride of the Valkyries. Even if you don't know Wagner or opera at all, I guarantee you know this music. Maybe from Apocalypse Now, Francis Ford Coppola's chosen music for the helicopter attack scene, which emphasizes the chaotic and violent nature of war. Or from any number of movies or TV ads wanting to inspire a grand atmosphere of excitement. But none of these can touch the intensity of experiencing this in the opera house. So if you happen to be one of those people who tend to leave at intermission, fight your tendency, or you will be missing out on one of the greatest moments in all of opera. With that said, after The Ride of the Valkyries concludes, Brunhilde comes onto the scene and asks for their help. They respond with solidarity, but their desire to help fades with the arrival of the furious Wotan. Their desire to defy authority in support of the greater good creates internal turmoil, not unfamiliar to us in this day and age, no matter where you stand on current issues. Psychologically, it is another theme in this opera that activates us, is what makes this opera powerfully relevant for us today. In every generation, people predict the demise of opera. It has been true for 400 years, and yet it goes on. And I think this is the reason. Stories like this one, told through the mythic saga of the gods, vibrate within us. And at its core, this opera presents an all-too-human drama. We see this at work in the opera's dramatic conclusion. Wotan sees specifically in his daughter what nags at him in general. He is losing control. He is falling prey to a prophecy of his doom. He finds Brunhilde's action a betrayal of the highest order, a disaster of disobedience. His punishment is swift and severe. He strips her of her divinity and intends to leave her human body asleep on a rock to be victimized by any man that finds her. Brunhilde pleads with her father. She does not so much beg for mercy as she points out that she acted not so much in defiance, but rather as an expression of his own inner desire. She understood the complexity of his heart and his unspoken desires. Her request is not to restore her divinity, but rather to be surrounded by a ring of fire. That is to say, fire, symbolic of a force field that only the fortitude and courage of a genuine hero can traverse. In a moving assent to her wish, Wotan recognizes the truth of her words, the power of love, the higher calling of justice, and the redemption of forgiveness. Although told through the story of the conflicted god Wotan, this story moves us because it touches our deepest sense of our own humanity, our longing for love, our need for acceptance, our conflicts between what society demands and what we expect of ourselves, and ultimately, the way we make our own choices that shape our own destiny. And so, this concludes an incredible Santa Fe Opera Festival season. With thanks to Santa Fe Opera's General Director, Robert Mea, and the Department of Community Engagement, led by Charles Gamble and his team, Anna Garcia, Marissa Aurora, and Olivia Durrell, this is Don Feinberg, concluding Opera Insight 2025. See you up at the Opera House.